Hello, welcome to the Dollhouse. I am the doll, and today I'm going to be talking about the 4B movement. The 4B movement is something that is being popularized in South Korea, and it's basically the women saying, we're done. We don't want dating, we don't want friendship, we don't want children, we don't want marriage with men. It's a very strong movement that mimics kind of the men going their own way. And so it's throwing nations into crisis because the childbirth rates are already dropping. The relations between men and women have deteriorated into nothing. They've deteriorated into dust. And the reason why I am cautioning women in the United States to re-examine the 4B movement is because America doesn't have the same social safety nets that South Korea has. And when I say social safety nets, I mean that healthcare and long-term care for the elderly people in society. Elderly people in Asian cultures are often revered. They are looked up to. They are taken care of. Now, as you know, in America, once you hit the wall, you have no value in the eyes of men. You know, once women hit the wall, once women get older, they become invisible. Their wisdom means nothing. Their life and experiences are for naught. So we don't have the same social safety nets, and we also don't have the awareness of the importance of caring for the elderly. So in South Korea, when a person turns age 65, if they get hurt or sick, can no longer work, can no longer care for themselves, the government of Korea steps in to care for people long term, sending night nurses, day nurses, people to help clean up for them, people to transport them if necessary. There are facilities where elderly people can go and feel comfortable. And we just don't have that. And people get shocked by the fact that there's no social safety net when a family member, for instance, becomes sick or hurt and cannot work anymore. And there has to be a caretaker. Caretaking is expensive. Very, very expensive. $200 a day in some cases or more. That's just like the average. And with inflation now, it's probably more than that. That's $6,000 a month for care inside of a long-term care facility. Now, my grandmother had to be taken care of inside of a long-term care facility for about 8 years. She had dementia, but she lived for 8 years. And my dad had to pay for that out of pocket, out of his retirement funds. It was around $6,000 a month. Now, you just do the math on that for 8 years. It was a lot. Not to say that, we're from some rich family. It definitely impacted things, especially for my dad. But, he couldn't leave his mother in just a random state-run facility where it's not even guaranteed that there's room available in places like that. So unless you're a veteran, and even in veterans' cases, they're not getting the care that they really deserve. You see a lot of homeless veterans on the street, hurting, older. Social Security is not taking care of things. The last that I remember, the maximum Social Security benefit that is available, it was around $2,500. So, when a person turns, I think it's now the latest age where you can take your Social Security benefits is like 70 and a half. I think the maximum amount was like $2,500 for payment. Like, what are you going to do with that each month? It's definitely not going to pay for long-term care. That's for sure. So women in America who are considering decentering men need to take this into consideration. The women in South Korea, if they don't have a family, the government's going to take care of these people. And we can't act like for thousands of years, children took care of elderly parents and relatives. Now, over the last 100 years, it's become evident that children don't want to be strapped to families in the same way. They don't even want to have their own families. So if they don't want to take care of kids, they're decentering families, decentering motherhood. They're not going to want to baby and change the diapers for their elderly parents. And this is where things will get tricky over the next 20 years, because people have been ever increasingly single. And as they get older, there will just be a gap in care. So if you're one of the dolls, you have to get ready for this. You have to prepare. If you are on a path toward decentering men, you want to take a good look at what you are doing now to prepare yourself for the time when you may not have anybody to depend on. You may need life alert. You may slip, fall, and can't get up. Your hip might break. You might have a heart attack, cancer, stroke. And you never know when that might happen. As a matter of fact, people get thrown into poverty most commonly because of health issues that they did not see coming. Medical bills get stacked up, and, an emergency can cost you quite a bit. I remember I had a spider bite that sent me to the emergency room 6 times in one weekend. And the reason why I had to keep going back is because the medicine that they gave me to combat, it was a brown recluse spider bite. The medicine that they gave me to combat it, I ended up being allergic to it. And they didn't believe me. They didn't understand what was happening until a doctor came in finally 2 days later and diagnosed me with Stevens-Johnson's. Do not look that up. You will regret. If you Google the pictures of Stevens-Johnson's, you will regret it. I took one pill, and I'm very lucky to be alive, because had I taken a second pill, I would have surely died. Because it basically causes all of your skin to fall off, chunks of flesh off the bone. Well, like a layer of skin did fall off. My skin definitely did fall off, but it wasn't it wasn't like flesh just falling off me like a rib. Anyway, these medical bills, that piled up, it was around $26,000 by the time that weekend was done. It cost me everything. So in order to be ready for things like this, you are going to need to be on top of your health insurance. As a young person, get the kind of life insurance that you can access before you die. And if it's permanent, all the better. Insurance where you can access the death benefit in case you have an activity of daily living that is impaired by illness. Activities of daily living meaning things like transferring, toileting, bathing, dressing, eating, continence, not being able to hold it in, basically. Not being able to use the restroom by yourself. and not being able to hold it in, walking around, dressing, eating. Those are the things that people with dementia or Alzheimer's or just in old age have trouble with. So if you get the right coverage while you're young, it won't be as expensive when you get older. You might be able to get a life insurance policy with living benefits, a permanent life insurance policy like guaranteed universal life. That's the one. It doesn't have cash value, but it will last for your lifetime, and the expense might be $100, $200 a month. And you could, if you're young enough, you could get $1 million worth of coverage for, that low. And then there's long-term care insurance. Now, a lot of companies aren't offering long-term care insurance until a person is at least, I think maybe 45. But I would recommend that. I used to work in finance, so I'm telling you what I know about these insurance products that help cover the costs of a stay in a long-term care facility. It'll pay $200 a day. It'll pay for care at home or care in a facility. Those are some of the options. Now, other options include having a family and cultivating a spirit of honor for the elderly and a spirit of taking care of one another. That might backfire, but it might work. Some women in a precarious financial position might choose to find a man that can help her balance out the expenses of life. And if he's not doing that, why do you have him? A lot of times in older age, women will end up taking care of the men because men tend to die first. But in those arrangements, he should be leaving assets behind so that she can be cared for in her old age, or they have a family that is an asset where the children in the family can care for the elderly in their old age. You just got to think about this. If you're decentering men, fine. But understand that there is a trade-off for it. There's a trade-off, and you have to be ready to meet it head on. And that's what I am here to address. And I hope I hope you find some value in this, because South Korea has a much more robust social program. They have a much more caring attitude towards the elders that America does not have. So if you're planning to embrace 4B, do it from an awareness that you have to think differently. You don't have the luxury of just saying, I give up on family, I give up on men, and I don't care. The state's going to take care of me. We don't have that. You are going to have to step up and take care of yourself. So I hope that's helpful to someone today. And I very much look forward to talking to you again soon. I apologize for just being absent these last couple days. I'm only going to do this if I feel like it, right? As you should do things that you feel like and that you enjoy. And that's how the Dows do. We follow our instincts over here. So again, I love y'all, and we'll talk soon.